cheaper than what I'm paying for Cox for internet, but it's slower. And I think it would be more consistent, it sounds like, because they're really limiting. They had a very small number of slots. So, once they sell out a certain number of slots, they're not going to, I guess they're going to wait. I don't know, wait until they can increase the capacity or whatever, or see how it goes. But I was very tempted because it's like half the price, but it's also less than half the speed. So I'm like, well, and it's not, it'd be going from gigabit to 300 megabit.
Yeah.
Now I'm I looked over Wi-Fi. I'm getting about 600, which is, obviously still twice as fast as what I get with them. But the upload speed also is, I think, 30 versus 100 versus the 100 that I'm getting. So I don't know. It would be more consistent, but I decided to stick with.
It'd be so nice not to be in the single or double digits of megabits.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You want to wonder about the network over here. It's double digits down, single digit up in megabits. So anytime there is some type of connection issue, I just want you to know that is the best internet we can get where I'm located. We cannot get better than that.
Yeah, it stinks. Yeah, at least, wow, on my MacBook, I'm getting 750 down. And let's see. I'm getting a full 112 up.
Yeah, here, I'll use my phone so it doesn't interfere with the stream. I'll run a speed test for you right here.
Yeah.
Ping's fine.
And your phone's going over the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, it's connected to the same network. It usually does a little bit better than my computer does, though, just because it has a better wireless card. So from this distance, it just picks up the signal better. But download 22.8 megabits per second.
Oof.
Upload 5.77.
How are you able to do this stream?
Well, because it turns out the minimum that you actually need, and that's on the low end, I guess we're having a bad day, the minimum you need is actually about 5.
Yeah.
For 720p. You need a lot higher if you want to push higher than that, but guess what? Most places don't even encode higher than 720p anyway. YouTube does, but you don't really need that for a stream. Mm-hmm. If you're going to Twitch just throttles you back down to 720 if you're not a partner. It's one of their the actual corporate partners. Like if you're Riot Games streaming the League of Legends championships, those are the only people that can actually stream at 1080p over a good bit rate. Everybody else is just 720.
Well, how do you like my haircut?
Didn't even notice.
Yeah. Sideburns nice and clean.
Yeah.
They were just kind of getting fuzzy. Yeah, I usually push it down with the headphones so you can't really tell anyway. But...
Yeah. Oh, anytime I get fuzzy, just bzz.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't cut it enough at the top. It's kind of long, but that's all right. Got to cover that bald spot.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, yeah. Welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I'm your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. Aside from having a haircut, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Yeah, I fell asleep watching Insidious: The Red Door last night.
My condolences.
Have you heard it's bad?
I've heard it is the worst of the Insidious movies, but the one before it might be worse. It's kind of up in the air. The one before it is worse for worse reasons. It is just a completely stupid movie that probably should not have existed. But this one, from what I've seen of it, it just kind of flip-flops around with the lore that the movies have been setting up, and it's just
Yeah, they made the lore way too complicated with time travel and all this shit, and it's it's too confusing. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say it's decent for a schlocky kind of turn off your brain and just, you know, be scary kind of a thing. It's not terrible. I mean, at least the acting is decent. Like, you know, a lot of B movie horror has terrible acting.
Oh yeah.
It's like with horror, I don't care that much about the writing so much as the acting for me personally.
I mean, I do care about the writing, but I don't care about it as much as, like, I don't know, I'm watching some really complicated detective mystery or something like that, you know, like a whodunit. There's some, like, minimum standards I have for horror movies, but aside from that, it's like you do expect them to be a little more schlocky.
Yeah. I think so far, I ended up, like I said, I fell asleep, but I managed to pause it right before I passed out. But as long as it's builds up enough atmosphere. I mean, obviously, like just like gratuitous jump cuts are pretty dumb. Like I think it was either The Nun or one of the Nun movies was terrible because it was just like stupid, predictable jump cuts or jump scares. Sorry, constantly.
Well, that sounds like either the first Nun or The Conjuring 2, which are in the same continuity. Because it's Conjuring 1, then The Nun, then Conjuring 2, then the sequel to The Nun, and they go back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whichever one like took place in the past, where they're at a convent or whatever.
Yeah, I think that was the first Nun, and that one was just kind of
It was It was like, you know,
I don't like any of the Conjuring movies.
Yeah, none of them are very good. But you know, I just for watching it 2 o'clock in the morning, it puts me to sleep at least.
When it comes to writing, those are the two things I care about. I care about the atmosphere because that's what really makes a horror movie. And too many of them try to cheap out the atmosphere with like jump scares and stuff like that now. But the atmosphere needs to be good, and the lore. It doesn't need to be super strong or anything like that complicated. It just needs to be consistent because you're basically telling a fairy tale. Basically, when you're doing a horror movie, this is like a grim fairy tale in the modern day. So whatever lore you establish, you just have to be consistent with it. It can be bare bones. It just needs to be consistent.
Yeah, I will concede that the Conjuring universe is very inconsistent.
Yeah. And
is it the Conjuring?
Well, no, Insidious, which is a completely different universe too.
Oh, right.
Insidious. That one was consistent for the first 2, and then it threw everything out the window.
So is this the 4th one?
I think so. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, they're not very memorable.
The first one's the only decent one out of the whole set of them.
Yeah, it's confusing because it's the same actor, right? In Insidious and The Conjuring, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah,
the main dude.
I don't know. It's been a while since I watched Conjuring. I just remember I did not enjoy it.
Yeah. Patrick Wilson. I think. Insidious cast. Yeah, Patrick Wilson. Whereas Conjuring, Patrick Wilson.
Okay. Yeah, so he wasn't both. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, am I going crazy? No, yeah, it's the same guy.
Well, you know what's going to drive you crazy? We've got big news today for Nintendo. Big news, right? Do you know what that big news is?
Does it have something to do with the voice acting?
No, that's the secondary news. The big news is that in the year of 2023, a single Wii U was sold. And it was the first time since May of 2022.
Wow.
Yeah, a commercial sell of the Wii U.
From what store?
I have no clue. It's like let's see.
Like a new one? Not used?
Yes, in box. Was purchased. It was let's see. It was according to Circana analyst Matt Piscatella. There was one Wii U sold in the United States during September. from a store. It was a vintage in-box unit, and it was the first one sold since May. So first Wii U period since May 2022. The last time the Vita unit was sold was 2021. So apparently a PlayStation Vita and a Wii U were both sold during this. I don't know who picked them up. It must have been like from one of those like warehouse type situations where they've got like unsold product and somebody's going to pick it up. But it was a commercial sale of a Wii U.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Why was that even reported?
I don't know. Probably just because of how weird it was. But
yeah.
Big news for the Wii U.
Was it sold for the MSRP and everything?
I think so, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
One more to add to the
to the failure
total
that
sales.
was the Wii U.
Yeah. It's picking up steam. I can feel it.
Yeah. 2 more sales and it's really going somewhere.
Did they buy any games with that? I mean,
I have no clue.
they get what was it? Well, that came with Nintendo Land, right?
Only if you got
So,
the
like-
deluxe edition.
Oh,
Right, the
was it
black
not
one
the
that
deluxe?
most people got. If you got the white Wii U, which people forget there even was a white Wii U, the basic one, it had less internal storage, did not come with a game.
Yeah. I like Nintendo Land. That's probably the game I played the most on the Wii U.
Oh yeah, Nintendo Land was fun. I loved it. Because we did get the deluxe edition.
They brought back the heart thingy on the live stream, and it's annoying because it blocks the chats.
Oh, well, I can read the chat because I'm not even looking at that.
Mhm.
Neuromanka Espa says, I'm going to say something that'll get this stream and our accounts banned. I mean, have fun with that, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
But yes.
speaking of YouTube changes, have you noticed the YouTube changes lately?
Probably not.
Well, oddly enough, maybe this is only on live streams, or maybe this is only on VODs and uploaded videos, but they have, or maybe it's been fixed. I don't know. For a while there, at least, they broke the at least the Chrome add-on that brings back the upvotes and downvotes
Oh.
for one, because I've had that, so I could still see upvotes and downvotes. But I've noticed lately I can't see downvotes anymore on most videos. I see them on ours right now, but I mean there's 0. But yeah, it went away briefly, or maybe in certain cases.
So it's a weird, very, very weird thing because they can only pull from the API. Even though broadly across the board, you're not supposed to be able to see the votes, period, there is still a checkbox when you upload a video or go live to whether you want likes to be seen or not. If you disable that, even with the app, you cannot see downvotes.
Right.
Right? Because
Sure.
the API is just not pulling it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can't believe that every video that I've watched has, unless they change that default or something.
I think by
because-
default it's not checked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been, I don't know. It's such a small thing, but I've
I have
noticed
it checked
on every
so
video.
that people can see it because I want people to be able to see it. Yeah.
Oh, by default it's not checked?
Yeah, by
That's
default it's
interesting.
not checked to allow people to see them.
That's got to be a change then.
Oh, that change happened a while back, but here's the thing. A lot of people like me, you can set your own personal default for uploads and live streams. So a lot of people probably had it still set, right? So it's just now that cache reset on the server side, maybe newer accounts or whatever, people who just don't have those old defaults set up, if they change what the default is, that gets changed.
But I mean, I'm noticing it everywhere. I'm looking at a
Yeah.
Lucy Pyre video where you can't see the downvotes. I'm like, come on, that's not that wasn't her choosing that. It may have been reset.
No, that's
without
what I'm saying. Like, it might
knowing.
be since they changed
Yeah.
like the in-server default, it might have been reset for a bunch of people.
Yeah, but this only changed literally a few days ago. Maybe even yesterday or 2 days ago.
Oh yeah, no, they could have
But,
changed what the server default was since then, but
Yeah.
um,
Well, the other thing,
yeah,
the more important thing, that's a small deal.
yeah.
The more important thing is, have you gotten any pop-ups, interesting pop-ups on YouTube? Do you use an ad blocker?
I had an ad pop up that was very weird at the end of a video while like the recommended. It was like a little, I haven't seen a pop-up ad on YouTube in fucking forever, but I've not seen the
it's not
thing
an
that you're
ad.
talking about because I use Brave, and Brave has not been affected by it, surprisingly or not. But I have not gotten that little thing that says, hey, looks like you're using an ad blocker.
Yeah. They're it's I don't know what you call it, a soft landing or a soft
Yeah.
They're gradually getting disallowing ad blocker, because right now the pop-up appears almost every time. It hasn't been every time, but almost every time a video comes up, you can just close it and play the video at the moment. But I'm sure that's temporary, and eventually they're going to disallow ad blocker.
I said I haven't seen it at all.
Which,
Outside of people
Oh, yeah.
taking screenshots and putting it on Twitter. So I was surprised that I saw an actual pop-up, though, at the end of it. It's like I haven't seen one of those forever. It might be some weird glitch or whatever. But other than that, once, I still don't see ads. And the thing about it is, they could try to block ad blockers and stop people from using it, then the ad blockers get better. Ads and ad
guess.
blocking has been a arms race since this shit began, and they keep going back and forth. Sometimes they find ways to beat the ad blockers, and you see ads for like a couple weeks or so, and then the ad blockers find a way around it. They have not been able to find a way around Twitch's ads yet, and the reason for that is because they actually inject the ad into your stream feed instead of it being like an overlay or anything like that. Which is cool, though. They at least let you see the video in the other corner so that you can visibly see what you're missing. You just can't hear it.
yeah, but you can't hear.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I've disabled ad blocker on Twitch because you can't. It just doesn't work.
There's no
if you
point
have the
to it.
ad
And
blocker
all
on.
it does is like fuck up Twitch. If you,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it breaks it in weird ways. I can't remember even because I've just turned it off a long time ago. I'm fine with it. Whenever if it becomes a thing where you basically can't use YouTube with an ad blocker, fine, turn it off.
Oh, so because like
think-
YouTube was never the reason why I started using ad blockers in the first place, right? Like
Yeah,
even
me
though
neither.
their ads aren't that invasive, I only even turned it on. I used to have ad blockers turned off on YouTube. I only turned it on because I was mad at YouTube because people were not getting the money that they were supposed to be getting from ads.
Yeah.
that was the only reason.
And-
But like,
and the other
it's
thing
for
is,
other sites.
Yeah. And I don't think YouTube typically shows you ads in the middle of a live stream. They don't
Typically, no.
typically, like, sometimes maybe it'll come up like when you first open the live stream, like you'll have to watch an ad or two. Like if I'm watching on my phone, maybe not. I know Twitch does that, but
I think they only
regardless,
do that on partnered streamers, right? And I don't really watch a lot of people who are large enough to get partnered that stream on YouTube specifically. Oh, hey Rick. Most of the people that are big enough to be partnered that I watch stream on Twitch, and then they just export clips and stuff over to YouTube anyway. So
yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Well, I mean, I think it'd be good. It's good for content creators if it leads to more revenue for them or whatever.
If they
but,
actually get it.
yeah,
Like, people
that's
do
true.
get revenue. I'm not saying like they get zero. It's just they're not getting anywhere close to the proportion of it that they actually should.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I kind of understand the problem.
Yeah.
The ad model just doesn't work with so much. There's way more content. There's too much content and not enough ads. I mean, there's
Yeah.
not enough money from companies that want to show ads to
Yeah.
distribute to all the content that's being created. It's crazy. So I understand sort of the adpocalypse thing. I think it was a convenient excuse to say, oh, hate speech or whatever, blah, blah, blah. They needed an excuse to reduce the ad revenue overall because
Oh yeah.
they just couldn't afford it. So I get
Well,
it.
one of the big problems
It's
too is
just-
that to try to get money, like more money on their hand, because it was like what? I think 2016 was the first year that YouTube ever churned out a profit. Right?
Hmm.
They
didn't even
basically
know
were
they did.
running like negative before that at a loss. Mostly for just the ads programs and stuff like that. But as of like 2016, they started running at a profit. It's not like a huge profit, but they're not running at a loss anymore. And that was actually one of the first times that there was like an adpocalypse type situation, right? And it turned out that to make as much money as possible, YouTube was intentionally mostly running ads on people who could not receive ad revenue, right? So you're just watching random video of a non-partnered YouTuber, and you would see an ad pop up. Well, since they're not partnered, all of that money just goes straight to YouTube, right? And there used to be a little box, it was around that time, that you could check in your settings where it says, I would not like ads to run on my content. And of course, you wouldn't check that if you were monetized. But there was a little note that it said, this only applies for non-monetized content. So if a video wasn't monetized or if you chose not to monetize it, you wouldn't run an ad. Otherwise, it would just run ads on anything. And they completely took that option away. So now whether a video is monetized or not, an ad can still run on it. You just can't get money, which seems very hypocritical to the purpose of why a video is monetized or not.
Yeah, because I know like Stick Sex and Hammer 666 is not monetized by choice.
Yeah.
Obviously, could be, but he does not want to be. But I'm trying to remember. I don't often watch his stuff on my phone, but I imagine it still shows ads, at least maybe at the end or something. I don't know. I'll be interested. I should check that out.
Yeah.
But I'm used to it because I do watch YouTube on my phone every once in a while. But like if I'm in the car or something, instead of listening to the radio, I'll put on a YouTube video that's long enough for the car
Oh
ride.
yeah, like a podcast or
15
like a video
Yeah.
essay or something
And
like
I'll-
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just put it like on the dash or whatever, in the middle part, and just listen to it as I drive. That's my radio. I mean,
Yeah.
even if it's just like a quartering video, if I'm going to drive for 10 or 15 minutes,
It fills up the drive.
put on a
so,
quarter.
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
perfect. But it's a little annoying that whenever there's an ad, like the ads, if you don't click the little skip button,
They just run
take
the whole-
forever.
Yeah.
They run
I've
like
seen
2
5-minute ads, and it's like, yeah, you could skip it after 20 seconds, but if you don't, it's a 5-minute ad. It's like, this is half
Yeah.
the length of the. Sometimes I've seen ads that are longer than the video I'm watching.
Yeah, I have mastered the art of clicking the
Yeah.
skip ad while I'm driving, but other than that, I just put it down.
Well, speaking of
So
clicking while driving, there was an OTK streamer was actually just banned from Twitch, obviously temporarily because most Twitch bans are temporary. But I laugh because it's probably the one time that everybody agrees that somebody should have been banned from Twitch, and hopefully this will teach it a lesson. It was the younger streamer Extra Emily was banned for being distracted while driving. Right, because she was like, she
On
didn't have a
Twitch?
mount. Yeah, she didn't have a mount for her phone or anything, and she's like streaming while driving, which is a hazard to
that's
herself and
bad.
other people, and that's why she was banned. And almost everyone, even people in, like her own organization, were like, "No, this ban was deserved, Emily. Like, we'll see you in 2 weeks, or whatever. You know, like, don't do
Yeah.
it again. If you want to stream while driving, get a phone mount and ignore the chat. Or if you
Yeah.
want to talk to the
I-
chat, get like a text reader or something so you don't have to look at it. Don't be distracted while driving.
yeah, I need to get a mount. That's what I need. That's a pretty good idea because I do like I use my phone other than just listening to something in the car is usually Google Maps because I'm
Yeah.
terrible at remembering how to get places, and I usually hold it while I'm holding the steering wheel, and I'm holding the thing with the steering wheel, and it's probably not too safe.
No, it can't be too safe. Hey, Fitzjoseph.
Did want to show you something funny if we're done with that topic. This will be real quick. Diablo or Blizzard put out an ad or a preview of season 2 of Diablo 4. They put this out yesterday. Man, Friday the 13th came for Diablo. Man. And they've since taken it down because it was so ridiculously embarrassing. And I'll just show you one thing that was kind of hilarious. This is who is this guy? Rexanterex, I guess, is a Diablo streamer, and he did a video on this. Let me share my screen. Tell me if you see anything wrong with this screen from their preview that they have taken down. How's the math on here? How's the math going?
Well, they have the answer to their first formula on screen. It's just on the wrong formula.
What do you mean?
Well, 40% of 1,000 is 400, right?
Yeah.
Right? So,
I see
again,
what you're saying.
the answer
So
to
they
the
have it
first
somewhere on
equation
the screen.
is on screen. It's just not attached to the right formula.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that second equation? Does that work out too?
Let's see. Well, times 1.2, that would be adding 20%, so that itself is right.
1200.
But adding another 20% of 1,200 is not going to be an extra 200.
Right.
And actually, you are still getting more. Their math is just horrible, and it's like negligibly more too.
Yeah. My question is are the left sides of the equation correct? And if so, then yeah, you're only getting 40 more XP because it should be 1,400 and 1,440.
Yeah.
Which really isn't that impressive.
It's not.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure even the left side is correct of either of these equations, unless they're just saying you get this much more XP. I don't know.
Yeah. Like the thing could be one of these sides is probably correct. And it's either the person who put this up here doesn't know what the formula was that got you the experience, or they just didn't put the right answers on. I don't know which is the question, but I'm hoping it's that the left side is incorrect and that you are actually getting substantially more experience.
Yeah, maybe the right side is correct.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that's the correct side.
Yeah. There's another. This is going to be harder to show, but I mean, this is a hilarious video. You should go check it out. Actually, Asmongold covered it, of course. This is why I found this. But this was their before and after, and I can't really explain which is actually better. This is sort of two different dungeon layouts, and this was the before, and this is the after. Now, notice the after one kind of has the two squares on either side of a middle lane. Yeah. Right? I'm just trying to remember that. In actuality, let me see. Yeah, so this is the before and this is the after. I'm trying to find, see, did he have it somewhere? Shoot, I don't know. Anyway, they completely screwed it up. This is opposite. The point is,
they flipped the before and after.
Yeah, they flipped the before and after. It was funny because he goes through like this blog post or something of theirs that they showed, and it's the exact opposite. The before is actually the after, and the after is actually the before. Whoever put together this video completely screwed up. I mean, they had a thing on.
I forgot that you had a video up. I didn't even switch the. They could partially see it. They just can't see everything. Let me fix that for them.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's
I
not
can
your
see the
fault.
map,
It's
though, right?
partially that was the problem.
Oh, okay.
Here we
I'll go
go.
back to that. Is it shut? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, obviously this isn't really gonna. I mean, I could play it, but can you tell the difference between the top and bottom of these horses? Like, which one's faster? They're just they're going at the same speed. It looks like.
Yeah, one's got
Maybe
like a
5%.
smoother like gallop, but
I guess it's supposed to
'Cause they-
be faster. I don't know.
they look
which-
like they're covering the same amount of land in the same time. It's just
Right.
like the animation is smoother, so it looks like it's going faster. Like the bottom animation, the ground beneath them is smoother, so it looks like they're covering more
Yeah.
distance faster.
Yeah, I don't know. This whole video was a complete cluster. Yeah, just for anyone who missed it, this was the original
Yeah, this part
math
I think was
problems that we were.
fine though because we kind of said everything out loud on this part, so that's not as big
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
deal.
Yeah, but yeah, the this. Oh, here it is. Okay, so yeah, so here's the correct thing. So notice the two
It's the other
squares
way
on
around.
either end with the lane. That's the old one. The new one is this other layout that's somehow better. I don't.
That's
really
no, that's
understand
good because from like a dungeon crawling perspective, like exploring, that second one looks more interesting to explore.
Yeah. And I guess like it's not exactly forcing you, but I guess you're more likely to cover sort of the lower square first, and then there's like a longer path to get to the other one. Whereas originally, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's also like it's how the mind works, right? So
Yeah.
if you're crawling through a dungeon and you see a
More
straightaway
likely.
and a turn, what you
Yeah.
probably want to do first is you want to go to the end of the straightaway before going down
Yeah.
any of the turns.
probably.
And then you might double
Yeah.
back and be like, okay, there's nothing at the end here. Let me hit up each of the hallways in order.
Yeah, yeah. But so yeah, I guess it is an improvement. It's really just funny because the video, and this is the incorrect before and after.
Yeah.
Whoever made the video totally screwed up everything.
Everything,
Like, absolutely everything. This guy was losing his mind. He couldn't stop laughing. But here, I'll stop the stream so you
Okay.
can go back to
Yeah, let me fix that.
normal.
There we go.
Anyway, they took it down because people figured out like everything is wrong. So hopefully they'll fix it and put it back up. It looks like season 2, because there have been a lot of complaints about Diablo 4 that appear that they've actually fixed a lot of things and then tried to improve things. But
The
yeah,
real
it's
question
funny.
is, can you still get one shot from off screen?
I don't know.
Because that seems more important than anything that they actually fixed.
Yeah. I don't know that we'll know that until it comes around and people try it.
Yep.
We'll have to see what Asmongold thinks.
Or at least what he thinks of what other people think.
Mhm.
Like, I can never remember his name.
No, he
What
actually played.
No, I know he played, but, like, if he replays, that's going to be the question. But a lot of what he does is going to be reviewing other people. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
There's this one guy with, like, really long red hair who's, like, the top content creator for Diablo, or at least the one that everybody trusts and stuff. And
Fire or something.
yeah, I just can never remember his name because I don't watch his channel. But I know of him, and I've seen quite a few of his videos. So his opinion is probably going to be one that's weighted a lot because he's been pretty detailed about the actual complaints, and he's been comparing it a lot directly to PoE because he finally tried it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but that was, Zach Asmongold tried it basically until he got sick of being killed off screen from off screen. It's just like, screw this, I'm not playing this anymore. But yeah, he's become more of a React streamer than almost anything else.
Yeah. I mean, he does play. I've watched him play a few games recently, but It's kind of just like the thing he does. He'll stall for like, I don't know, 3 hours straight reacting to things, and then he'll finally play the game.
Yeah. Well, that's undoubtedly what gets the most views on his YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah.
He uploads those.
Well, that's the thing that gets the most views, even on Twitch, right? You'd think people would want to be there to watch people play games, but what they really want to do is they just want to have a watch party with like their favorite people, like sitting on the couch watching YouTube videos with your friends, and that's how they can get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a Mystery Science Theater 3000
Yeah.
for YouTube. And funny, in fact, Lucy Pyre just released a video. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, just like the first 5 minutes, where she was dunking on React, streamers. Of course, she is one as well. So
Yeah.
she was saying how she was a hypocrite. But I'll have to watch that later. But there's even bigger news when it comes to Blizzard. That's,
I was going. We could do that. I was also going to say the big Nintendo news, the actual big Nintendo news, since we didn't hit that too.
Oh,
we did any other order since we're already on Blizzard. We could do that one first. That's fine.
Sure, we'll get back to Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, after a long and arduous battle with several different legal systems around the world, Microsoft has finally officially acquired Activision Blizzard, which is what the joke on today's stream info box is a microblizzard.
King Microblizzard.
King Micro, yeah. Well, because I remember for a long time I was calling them Actiblizzard, but now they're Microblizzard. So yeah.
King was that was part of Activision, right?
Yes.
Right.
They had acquired
it's
them
part of
a while ago. It was actually turns out to be the main reason Microsoft was trying to acquire Activision Blizzard was because of King, and they were trying to make headway into the mobile market space.
Yeah, it's funny because we've been talking about this for months or years, however long we've been talking about
Over
this
a year now.
acquisition.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're always saying, Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard. And then when it happened, Xbox put out a good video. I don't know if you want to watch that right now, but
We could.
that had a very, at least as much emphasis on King as anything else. And I was like, oh yeah, forgot about King. Like,
that was the real reason they wanted it.
Yeah. Forgot that's part of the deal. Yeah. But yeah, that was a good segment of their sort of we did it video.
Yeah. In fact, even though Activision was kind of always the head company of all of these mergers, I mean, Blizzard was big enough that when they merged, they did change their name to Activision Blizzard. They didn't just stay Activision, but they were the bigger side when they merged. King, not being in the company's name, is probably the largest total of revenue for the entire company, even more than Activision or Blizzard.
Exactly. Can I share this?
Yeah, here. As you're doing that, I'm gonna switch us back over
Sorry. Switch us. What?
to the full screen. So if you share it,
Oh, okay.
people can.
It's
actually
gonna be
see
black.
it. That's fine.
Initially.
There we go.
But yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'll go ahead and turn off the sound here.
Oh, I already
but
have the sound muted anyway.
That's all right. Well, yeah, but I could hear it. So yeah, I mean, I obviously they've been preparing this for a while. I don't know. There's upsides and downsides to the whole thing. I prefer to be optimistic because it happened.
I do
There's
too.
nothing we can do about it.
It's hard to be optimistic, just because of how Microsoft has been treating its first-party games in like the last 5 years. I mean, the Sea of Thieves took forever to actually be a good game, but they kind of sank that ship too. Halo Infinite was dropped like a bomb. Like they haven't been doing good, but they could do better. They probably can't do as bad as Activision Blizzard's been doing. Like, hopefully this has to be an improvement.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I don't think it's been. Oh, that part excited me when I was like, oh, StarCraft.
StarCraft.
Is there going to be another StarCraft?
Hopefully,
Maybe.
Microsoft will see that and force them to do something, because
Yeah.
Warhammer is making a really big wave recently. There's been a lot of Warhammer games. There's going to be a Warhammer TV show, and everybody who knows the history of StarCraft is they wanted to make a Warhammer game, but they didn't have the license to make Warhammer, so they made StarCraft. It is literally just Blizzard's Warhammer, and they could compete against Warhammer pretty well from a general entertainment aspect if they dive into StarCraft.
Yeah. I don't think we need to watch it again or anything.
Yeah.
So turn that off for you. Yeah, I was trying to say that, like, it kind of depends on the particular IP. Like, I feel like they've done a really great, I could be wrong, and maybe Minecraft streamers will disagree, but I feel like they've done a really great job with Minecraft.
So it's weird. It's very weird. They've done some really good positives and some not so much. A lot of that you can still probably contribute to, like, the Mojang office at Microsoft, since they've pulled it in. It's weird because they've turned Minecraft into a monetization machine. So it's probably the most positive thing they've dealt with. It's not completely positive.
Yeah. But it feels like, like they let the Mojang team do what they want to do, but they kind of just, like, unleashed them. Like, they probably gave them all the money they could ever want.
Yeah.
To be like, do what go nuts. They've added so much to it. Like, I never expected it to be continuing to have new updates with all kinds of new content.
Yeah, over a decade later.
Obviously, yeah, and I mean, it's like more than Stardew Valley, believe it or not. And obviously they've branched out and they've created all these spin-off games that are, actually a bit more monetizable, I think. But
well, even the main game has become monetizable because most of their money doesn't come off of sales of Minecraft anymore, even though there are obviously younger new people that
Isn't
come
it free?
in. No, it is not free. You have to buy Minecraft. Most of their money comes from realms, so like people paying for private servers and stuff like that, subscriptions.
Yeah, my kids have a subscription to Realms. Full disclosure.
Yeah,
but they still do. I mean, they still play.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's probably the most positive thing they've done. But even all of the boons that come with Minecraft, there's a lot of negatives that come with other things that just haven't been getting the attention. I get it. Minecraft just makes more money than most other things. It's one of the most popular games in the entire planet. But that doesn't mean you should be dropping the ball with, like, literally everything else. Because the last game that I think they did very well was Killer Instinct. That is still running. They're still doing okay with that, but I can't think of a game that from Microsoft Office since Killer Instinct that was handled properly. Wait, no. Doom and Doom Eternal. Those are the only other two.
Doom Eternal.
For new games. Because they're id, which are part of Bethesda, which is part of Microsoft.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I was thinking of that is good. For some reason,
those are the only other games I can think of.
Yeah, I thought when you said Doom Eternal, for some reason my brain went to Diablo Immortal.
Oh,
no. Like, no, that game, that was shit. What are you talking about? Like, no.
No. Yeah, I forgot about Doom. I would count the Quake remake, but I don't really count remakes because as long as you have the right people working on them, it's really hard to fuck up a remake, even though some people still do.
Yeah. The one thing, like, again, Asmongold was suggesting was if they add World of Warcraft to what's it called? Xbox Game Pass, it could increase the the population of Warcraft, which could make it better.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the fact that people are dropping out is hurting the game in and of itself.
Oh yeah. I don't know how they would handle that though, because I don't think
It would
you
be
could do a
it
sub
would be a
that way.
loss
It'd have to
leader.
be. Yeah, it would have to be a loss leader. You could do bonuses with Game Pass, and I don't think they'd have to lose too much. Anything that would actually just get people to want to resubscribe, I think that would be better for them long term. Like a lot of people have bonuses for even MMOs and stuff, or at service games with Amazon Prime, right? So like, I don't see why they couldn't use Game Pass as a incentive program, not just like a way of getting games for things that you just could not afford to run through Game Pass.
Yeah, but I'll tell you one
Yeah.
reason why I'm not even, I used to, whenever they came out with a new expansion, I would at least upgrade and try it out. Back in Mists of Pandaria and those days. I don't do it now because it would cost, I don't know if it's $40 or $60 plus a monthly fee. It's like, okay, but if I could just play it for free, the latest and greatest, I'd at least try it out.
Yeah. That's I think that's one of the benefits Final Fantasy has over World of Warcraft is their system. They could make more money if they ran things the way that Warcraft does with their battle chest. But what they do is the new expansion is like somewhere $30-$40 when it's new. And then like after the expansion's done and like Blank Point 1 comes out, the post-expansion content, then they will repackage it. You actually cannot buy the expansion anymore, and unless I think you can. You can still. It's like $20 if you already owned everything else. You could still upgrade to just that. But if you are a new person, instead of why not just let people own everything? That doesn't really matter for their income that much, regardless.
Yeah. I wish. Well, I don't know. If you buy the expansion, do you get like 3 free months or something like that with World of Warcraft? I feel like you do.
You used to. I don't know if you still do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems with World of Warcraft. not just the price, but like, I would feel I'd be so much more likely to pick up Classic again because I'm so lost and in the lore, in the gameplay mechanics. It's so complicated. Yeah. It's ridiculous. But who knows? Maybe they could revive it.
Yeah, and here's another reason why I don't think they should use Game Pass as a means for owning the game. And it should just be incentives, right? Or I guess you could use it as the sub, but you'd still have to buy the game. I don't think you could do both. But one of the reasons I don't think as a means of owning the game is because for the character to work, you would have to make that a permanent purchase onto the character's account, even if it's Game Pass. You couldn't really just have it as a subscribed, like as long as you own Game Pass, because then you just wouldn't be able to play that character anymore, even if you're paying for your subscription. Because you wouldn't have access to the content that the character's in.
Like, if your subscription lapsed?
Yes. From Game Pass, specifically, right? So it'd have to be one or the other. I don't think they could do both content and sub through Game Pass. Or, I guess if they only did both content and sub, I guess you could, but that would be even more of a loss leader.
I don't quite understand, but like if it's a permanent,
they'd have to permanently add that to your account because the character always needs that data.
Yeah. I don't know.
MMOs are just a tricky thing
to
deal with expansions. And
I could
stuff
see.
Like that.
Yeah, I could see where maybe you have to buy the expansion, but as long as you have Game Pass, that pays for your monthly fee.
I think that would be less of a loss leader too, because they'd still be making the money off the expansion. That I could totally see that possibly happening.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. Yeah, either way, it's gonna. I mean, it's presumably they'd be willing to lose that So, and it wouldn't be everything. Obviously, not
Yep.
everybody has Game Pass.
Yeah.
But I think they'd be willing to lose that if it also enticed more people to get Game Pass.
Oh yeah.
Or buy an Xbox.
For sure. I just think the last one you said, which I was trying to get to, was if you still had to buy the expansions, but it just counted as your sub. I think that could work. That wouldn't hurt them too much. It would get more people on Game Pass. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird though that you can play the game with a previous without buying the latest expansion, and your character just can't go to those new areas or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing with an MMO. Then you've got all these people on different versions, like all different versions, and I don't know. That was a weird way to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense that it naturally evolved that way, right? Like if you were going to look back and build a game retroactively, you probably wouldn't do it that way. But since that's how MMO started, that's also how content had to be delivered to you, because obviously the content has to be added to the game over time. Like it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and it as long as each expansion adds a new area that you can't get to without the expansion. But also, like, even if you don't buy the expansion, you'll still get any updated content in the existing areas that you can get to.
Yes. Anything that's like at level. So if like the level requirement is too high, you can't do it anyway. You would just be looking at the guy with the quest over his head like, haha, you can't do this, bitch. But yeah. I think
but like when they did the Cataclysm, I mean, that changed the world for everyone.
Yes.
Whether you had the expansion or not. So
hey, we got a comment from Espa. Says, Yo Metal started playing Genshin on the weekend since Sunday. Once at 16, want me to add you. Unrelated topic, but we're both here. And I said, fuck it. Yeah, sure. Yeah, once you can add friends, add me. I'll get you my code or whatever. I like running around with people. I've been getting back into Genshin. I had, actually, just a real quick subtopic on that. My original Genshin account was pretty fucking bricked. Like, it was bad because when the game started, RNG was way worse than it is now. There was pity for characters only, but the pity system wasn't as good as it is now. There was no pity for weapon banners. Everybody can thank the streamer Tectone for basically pointing that out and spending like thousands of dollars to get them to convince, like, yeah, the banner shouldn't be this way, right? He literally spent thousands of dollars on the weapon banner. But it was not as good as it is now when it first came out, and RNG had fucked me so bad that I did not have an account that could finish certain content. Coming back to it, and now like even the drops are better, things are a bit more controlled, pity in general is just better. It took me a while, but I finally unfucked my account. And I started going through the Archon quest again, and I'm like slowly catching up to current content. I already know what happens. I've watched people play it and stuff, and I've done quests in the new regions. It's just like I couldn't do the story quest because of how far back the Archon quest was.
So you unfucked your existing account, or you started a new one?
Well, I did start a new one on stream, which I will get back to. Like the only things I'll be streaming on this YouTube channel are story content of games that we've talked about here on the show, like Genshin and Star Rail. And I have an account set aside just for that. But my personal original account, I grinded and slowly like unbricked it. It is viable again. I've got a fully viable team. I can do all of the content. I don't have to worry about shit. I can catch up on the story myself.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I think changed too is since then, I don't think this was originally in the game, after you hit a certain world level, which is world level 5, and that's just the enemies in the world get harder to fight. And the enemies in the quests and stuff when you're at a higher world level. At world level 5, you can actually drop the world level back down by a single world level so that your characters can be a higher level than the things you're fighting. And your resources that drop are worse too at lower world levels. But it was fine because I needed those resources, and it just made the grind take longer resource-wise, but it probably would have taken longer damage-wise if I was at my world level. So I kind of like, I don't know, it was a great boon to my account to be able to drop the world level for a while.
Oh, it's nice that you can do that.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I've been grinding away at Story of Seasons Pioneer of Olive Town.
The good one.
Yeah, which I found. I have to say it's my weekly report on Story of Seasons. It's interesting. It has a lot of potential to me as like. In a lot of ways, it's better than Stardew Valley. It's very similar to Stardew Valley. Interestingly, but it has some real upsides, improvements over Stardew Valley, and some real downsides. I have to say, and one of the downsides I'd say is too many characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get that they wanted to have a lot of content, I guess, but I can't keep all the characters straight. There's just too many NPCs, and like, what's funny is like. There's about the same number of people you can romance, but there's way too many other people that you can't. And so, it's too distracting.
Just kind of an upside. I remember, like, in the original Harvest Moon, I think there was only like 3 or 4 people you could actually romance. Right? And it was all chicks, which I think is because majority of people who played video games at the time were guys, even though that's a game that applies to girls way more than guys. Like, I think that I think that's one of those games, between that and the rise of the Game Boy version of Tetris, where companies started to realize how many women played video games, since they basically almost completely fall off after the arcade era, and that's why video games were sold as boys' toys in like the boys' aisle. But I think girls are fine with playing a guy romancing women, because to them it's like reading a romance novel or something like that. So that really wasn't a problem at the time. Yeah,
but I do like that. There's this genre has really improved in so many ways. I don't like. Well, interestingly, in Olive Town, you choose whether you're a boy or a girl. It actually asks if you're a boy or a girl. It doesn't ask pronouns, which there's nothing wrong with that. And then the fact that whether you're a boy or girl, it doesn't matter. You can romance whomever you want, and that's fine. Yeah, it's just like Stardew Valley. I think there's 6 boys and 6 girls that you can romance anyone.
Which is it's similar amount of people.
Mm-hmm. I will say it's initially the romance thing. It seemed difficult, like way too difficult, like too slow. Because I'm talking to this one girl. There's this one hot chick, Laura, who's the tourism, the tour guide basically for the town that I've basically picked out. But I've realized, and this is something that it's hard to compare, because with Stardew Valley I've become so familiar with it, so much stuff I've memorized. Like, I know the favorites of just about all the characters. Like, maybe not all of them, but ones that typically work. Penny likes the poppy seed muffins. I always make her poppy seed muffins. But in this one, what I realized was that I really need to go to the wiki and find out what her favorite things are, because I've been giving her all kinds of shit that she doesn't really like.
Yeah. Well, that's like the whole point of those games, right? Because Story of Seasons is an extension of the Harvest Moon franchise. They're the same franchise now. And if you look at Harvest Moon, the whole point of it was to be a rerunnable game. That's why the seasons are so short. That's why you only really run 3 years or whatever. It's so that when you're done, you look at your score and you're like, okay, how, if I restart the file, how can I do it better next time? Or how do I romance this person next time? And part of that was that you weren't supposed to get your high score the first time around. And a lot of his experimentation and making notes and realizing, okay, this person likes this thing. But we just don't do that anymore. We just go to wikis and find out that way. And it's understandable because in the original Harvest Moon, again, there was like 3 or 4 people you could romance. It wasn't that hard to figure out what everybody liked in that game. This one, there's just way too many. There's too much. There's just too much.
Yeah, and the other downside is, at least I haven't figured out if you can tell in game, like in Stardew Valley, there are books and people will tell you like, oh, this person likes this person doesn't like that, and so you can take notes and you can figure all that stuff out. In this, in Olive Town, I haven't seen that anywhere. Like, there's really no indication of who likes what. I think the only thing you can do is trial and error, give them something and see what their reaction is, and that's about it.
I think that was,
that's
because Stardew was a lot closer to the original Harvest Moon, because I believe, like, what was I think one of the girls' name was Anne or whatever, but like you could talk to her dad, and her if you talked to him enough, you would find out what she liked, right? Like, and you could do that. You could talk to people who were related to the girls, and you would eventually find out the things that they liked, because those people who are close to them should know that.
Yeah, and in fact, there's very little. I don't know. There's lots of issues, I think, with the interpersonal relationships in that game. It just there's very little interaction between the NPCs. Like, I don't know who's friends with whom, or who knows who better and stuff like that. With Stardew, it was very
obvious.
There are fewer people, and it was very obvious this person is a close friend. Like, they'd hang out, like
almost everybody had like some relative or someone you could talk to. Like, even 2 of the romanceable girls were sisters, and you could actually find out what the other one liked by talking to the other one because they knew their sister.
Yeah. The 2 girls who live together, are they sisters?
Yes. The blonde and blue hair. Yeah, they're sisters.
Huh. I thought they were just like best friends. Oh, cool. Yeah. The weird hippie chick with the blue hair.
Yeah, and the crystals and stuff, and her like bimbo sister.
Yeah. Sometimes I've romanced the bimbo sister. Forget. Haley.
There's nothing wrong with romancing the bimbo sister.
Yeah. But yeah, and the other thing is, there's not enough time, and that the day goes by way too fast. And I know that's kind of a complaint about Stardew Valley, but this one's even worse. It's like, I can't even get to. I mean, I guess if I reduced the amount of like farming that I did every day, or if I get some sprinklers, it might help. So I don't have to freaking water my crops every day. Yeah, I can't even get more than 2 or 3 levels on the 3rd mine before I run out of time. So, yeah.
Well,
it's so
more current news on that topic. I believe we brought it up before. Have you seen much about the new Harvest Moon, since that part of the franchise is actually coming back? One of the coolest things I saw was a screenshot of the character riding around on a dinosaur.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was like a little raptor Yoshi looking thing almost, and that was pretty cool. I didn't look too much further into that, but I'm like, hey, we're getting 3D, almost claymation looking Harvest Moon, and you can ride around on a Yoshi. That seems pretty interesting. I might play that. I like Harvest Moon.
Yeah. That's cool. What's amazing is that they just came out with a Harvest Moon 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And what is this one called? Winds of Anthos. Yeah, I'm gonna try this. Check it out. Oh, it's out. It's out already.
Oh, it's already out. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw news about it like over a week ago or whatever. It might have been before it came out, and we just didn't end up talking about it on that show.
That's neat. Gosh, I'd hate to like. That'll be another time sink.
Yeah. What's cool is that between that and some other games that came out recently, all three branches of the Story of Seasons franchise are being ran at the same time. Because we have a new Harvest Moon, there's a Rune Factory that happened recently, and then obviously there was that Story of Seasons that is basically a remake of the original Harvest Moon.
That is terrible, and I don't recommend anybody buy it. It's terrible.
Unless you're like, I don't know, super nostalgic.
Yeah, I guess.
No.
I don't know what they were thinking. Like, let's remake this really old game with hardly anything to do and don't add anything.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, I know a lot of people that they actually emulate the Game Boy Harvest Moon on their phone, and I think that's like the most bare bones version of Harvest Moon. But that's actually the reason why people emulate it, right? So it's something that they can just pick up and they can play real quick if they're waiting in line or something like that, and they don't have to focus too hard.
Yeah.
You don't even really have to remember what you're doing in that game.
Yeah. I wish I could get a refund on it. It's such a waste.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this game? It's awful. But whatever. Yeah, Winds of Anthos.
Winds of
So you said there's a trailer involving...
I didn't see a trailer. I saw a screenshot. There might be a trailer that screenshot came from. I just saw the character on a dinosaur. That was it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, you can breed dinosaurs in Stardew Valley, but you can't ride them.
Nope, they're just basically chickens.
1.6. Chickens?
I do see a screenshot of the female, because you could choose male or female in this one. The female character riding a horse. So mounts in general are in that game. Let me see if I can find the screenshot of the dinosaur.
I'm glad that you can choose a female, because I know, Peach is a big fan of these types of games, especially Rune Factory. She's crazy about Rune Factory.
Yeah.
And, she always likes to play a girl, obviously.
Where the heck is the dinosaur screen? Oh, well, I see a big dinosaur. Not the character's not riding it, but I also see the character riding a zebra.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Huh. It looks like a big world, too.
It is, from what I've
seen.
Like,
it's almost like it reminds me of Pokemon...
Legends of Arceus?
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of that. I'm sure it's not quite that big.
It's probably big enough though if you have mount travel as an option. I mean, yeah, you can ride horses in Stardew as well, but it barely speeds. It does speed things up, but barely. It's more aesthetic than anything.
Oh, I see it.
You found it?
Oh wait, no, cool. She's just petting a raptor.
Yeah,
that
was the one
that
I
riding.
saw.
Yeah, it shows riding a camel. Is this what you're watching? Oh, there we go. He's riding a dinosaur.
Oh, I'm just looking at screenshots. I'm not actually watching anything. But if you're watching the trailer, you'll see it.
Yeah.
Saw a panda. I wonder if the panda's rideable.
It seems like a lot of things are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really snuck up on me. I didn't know. I mean, obviously, I'm not really into Harvest Moon all that much, but I knew that there had been a recent release just 2 years ago, so it was a surprise.
Yeah, the main franchise has been kind of dead for a while. It was out of like nowhere because they basically completely replaced it by only putting out stories of season stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see, I do still have a little bit about the Activision Microsoft stuff, but before we get to that, let's get to the Nintendo thing. The voice actor for Mario, the new one, has been revealed. A lot of people, the data miners, are completely confuzzled because apparently they weren't looking in the right places at all. It was not who they predicted. And it turns out that Mario and Luigi, much like with Charles is going to be voiced by the same person again, and it is a man named Kevin Afghani, or Afghani. I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm assuming it's Afghani. And he's excited about it. I found out from a retweet from one of my voice actor friends, like the day it happened in the middle of the night or whatever. And I don't know. I'm not going to judge. I'm going to hold up good hopes. Nintendo knows what Mario should sound like. They've been working with Charles and stuff for many, many years and choosing the voice of Mario themselves. From the trailer, that sounded like Mario and Luigi, so I'm just going to assume Mario and Luigi are going to continue to sound like Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, I assume.
The real question is he also going to be voicing the other voices that Charles did, or are they going to have to cast people for like Wario and Waluigi and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, they're not in this game. So
yet, maybe. Who knows?
Come up. Yeah. I assume they're not.
Well, no, they're not, but if they already added Daisy to the game, think like DLC, you could make more money by adding other characters. So who's to say Wario, that might even be the first game Waluigi's ever in that's not a side sports game for all we know.
Man, I would love it if they did kind of a remake, or as much as there's baggage with this word, but a reimagining of Wario Land. Where you could, where you like hit enemies from the side, which, it's something you couldn't do with
I wouldn't even mind Wario Land coming back, because like the last one was Wario Land 4 on the GBA, which is a really fun game, because after you finish the world doing all of those different mechanics, you have to escape the world. Like the time gets pulled back because you're like in a dream or something like that. I forget exactly how it worked. It's been a while since I played it, but it was fun. It was fun having to like reverse through the whole level to get out. And they were just always doing more and more creative platforming things with Wario. And then there was Wario World, which was different. It was a fun 3D platformer, but they've never done a Wario Land after that. They just kind of dropped it. Like WarioWare. That's the only thing Wario gets now if he doesn't show up in a Mario Party or something else.
Yeah, I liked I liked in the original Wario Land, how the goal was to collect all this treasure.
Yeah.
And you had to find all the hidden items, and then depending on how much you collected at the end, your castle got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, because he had a rival that was another thief slash hoarder. Was a pirate. I'm trying to remember her name. That becomes
not in the original.
No, that's in 2, but that's where they establish her. I'm trying to remember what her name was.
The original, his rival was Mario.
Yeah. What was her name though?
I don't know.
Was it Plum? I think it was. I think it was like another names, like how they usually use like Peach and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That comes into 2.
Captain Syrup.
Syrup, that was it. It was Captain Syrup. Yeah.
Captain
Yeah. She becomes like Wario's longtime rival.
Yeah. I guess she was sort of in the background in the original Wario Land, maybe.
Yeah, they established her there, but 2 is where she's the actual villain of the game, because you're like competing against her.
Yeah, she's the head of the Black Sugar Gang.
Yeah.
Interesting. Fischoso has an interesting question. I think it's interesting.
Okay.
Do you think video games are just going to become like Hollywood, in which 5 companies control the entire medium? I don't think so.
No.
I honestly don't think so.
And I think part of that too, maybe here in the States, it might be that way. Outside of indie projects, which we're also seeing film leaving Hollywood and having more low budget indie stuff too. But because video games are already an international industry, and everybody buys things from everywhere, we're seeing how like Hollywood's becoming more international. Video games beat it. If anything, I think Hollywood's going to become more like video games, the other way around.
Yeah, I was going to say, because of the fact that the indie scene in video games is so strong and so vital, and it's like, you'll see indie games that make millions, like tens of millions. Like Stardew Valley. I can't believe you haven't heard of Stardew Valley. It's one of,
Yeah.
if not the, well, maybe Minecraft, I guess, could be considered a indie, the most successful indie game. I mean, look at Minecraft.
Yeah, Minecraft was the most successful before it stopped being an indie game.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was already one of the most successful games in all time. I mean, most lucrative. And Stardew Valley makes millions upon millions, and it's made by one guy. I mean, he has a bit of a team at this point, but literally one guy made it from the beginning.
And it's not just indie, which indie is a big part of it. But we also have to look that unlike Hollywood, we also have a lot of like single and double A studios that don't even necessarily participate in the triple A side of the industry. And there's less double A because a lot of those end up working with the triple A a lot, and they end up basically functioning as wings. It's like they'll do the modeling for this game for a larger one. But the single A industry is just as strong and vibrant as the indie side of the industry.
I just have a dim view of so much AAA stuff.
Same.
It's just like I don't play any of it. I've never been interested in all of this popular Call of Duty and you know, all these, I don't know what you call them. I don't know if they're Souls clones or, you know, there's all these games that come out when I'm like, I just have no interest.
The thing is, like, a lot of the big
AAA.
ones, like, because you mentioned Call of Duty, a lot of them I liked when they were newer, right? Like, my favorite Call of Duty game is still World at War, which is really fucking old at this point, right? And I liked all the way up to, like, the first Black Ops. I think that was the last Call of Duty game I liked because it had a really, really strong single player campaign, and then you could also enjoy it with your friends. After that, though, like, I completely left Call of Duty because it just kept feeling like more of the same. If you were going to buy one, you might as well skip 2 or 3 different ones, and then there'll be enough differences by the time that you buy it. And
but like it's not just I Fitzgerald said Souls-like. Yeah, I'm thinking of Souls-like games, but also
I don't think Souls-like describes the things that you were necessarily describing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just thinking of 3D, very high fidelity, high graphics, like even like the Horizon games.
Yeah. Last
no
of
interest
Us.
in those. Walking simulators or whatever you call them. Just all these games that are just like very good graphics.
Generic
3D
open
graphics
world
and just,
adventure of the month.
yeah. I just don't.
Yeah.
And,
I don't care
that,
for me, though.
what was that game where people were complaining about the woman who looked Forspoken? That's actually not what I was thinking of, but it did come to mind.
That was pretty
Forspoken.
bad, and that fit the same mold.
And honestly, it wouldn't have mattered if the dialogue was fantastic and the story was fantastic and
The gameplay
character
looked
looked
bad,
good.
right? Like,
I wouldn't even care if the gameplay looked good. I'm not interested in that kind of game.
well, I'm saying,
don't
like,
care.
that is part of the gameplay, though, right? Like, that part of just generic open world exploration is a core part of the gameplay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, like, what mechanics you throw in there. The core gameplay is that we're just going through this world and exploring, and it's mostly empty, and there's barely anything to do in the game. And I think that's the bigger problem. Everybody was complaining about that game for, like, the really bad woke dialogue and shit. And I'm like, you know what? I would put up with really bad woke dialogue if the game actually looked fun. Like, if it was something I wanted to play. But this game looks shit. Like, regardless of all that, we could strip it out. It's boring. There's nothing to do in the game.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm obviously not necessarily sort of the average gamer, but a game has to either be some sort of lore or IP that I'm very familiar with and very much in love with, like Zelda. I will buy
you need, like,
every
a
well,
previous investment.
not everyone, but yeah. Or the gameplay has to be super compelling. Like, like this Olive Town game, I'm big into farm sims apparently.
Yeah.
Just the gameplay is really compelling and fun. And even, I really want to get into Star Rail because I really love turn-based RPGs.
Oh yeah.
So
and it's got a good story, and
yeah.
turn-based RPGs are like one of the only genres where you actually can say, I want to like the story, because the story actually fucking matters in those type of games.
Yeah. And obviously I know nothing about it's a brand new IP. I don't know anything about it, but it is very interesting to me because of the gameplay.
Well, if you have Prime, you also get some benefits for Star Rail right now too.
Oh.
Yeah,
cool.
Which anybody listening to this, I don't have Prime. If you don't give a shit about Star Rail and want to give me your Prime benefits for Star Rail, I will gladly take them. You can hit me up in DMs.
Yeah. I mean, even like Elden Ring, I bought Elden Ring because there was so much hype, and it did end up being a quite compelling game. But normally those types, I mean, that is definitely a Souls-like, are not, it's basically a Souls game.
It is. It's just an open world Souls games, which the Souls games are broadly kind
but I'd
of
never played
open world anyway, right? They're just like Castlevania style open world.
Yeah. But I mean, at least it's kind of filled with stuff.
Yeah.
But I'd never played a Souls game before that. They never interested me. Hogwarts Legacy, again, like typically wouldn't be something I'm particularly interested in because it's just kind of an open world. There's quests and stuff. But I do like the IP, and so that kind of intrigued me. But again, both of those games, even though I got them, I've played for maybe 10 or 20 hours total, and maybe 5% into it, and I've quit.
I was going to say, there's probably another Souls game that would likely appeal to you, but you would probably not finish it. Like, you would get your 10 hours out of it. You would enjoy the time you spent. So if it ever comes back up on, say, one of the PlayStation free games, you could look into playing, because then it would be worth like the 10 hours. And that would be Bloodborne, because that's the one that's kind of like the closest to a Castlevania game. And you'd probably enjoy that for like the 10 hours that you'd play it. You'd be pissed. You'd be like yelling at the game, but you'd enjoy it for the 10 hours that you play.
Elden Ring drives me nuts sometimes. But yeah, and another game that obviously was brand new when I got it, had no nostalgia. Well, it did because it was tied to Castlevania. Was I'm looking, what's the name of doesn't it have the word blood in it?
Bloodstained.
The Castlevania Bloodstained, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I love
Bloodstained, because it's like, it's classic Symphony of the Night style Metroidvania.
Made by the guy who made Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just don't, so many, 90% of AAA games, absolutely, like I look at it, I'm like, oh, another one.
Yeah.
No
same.
interest.
But you know
they
what,
sell tens of millions of dollars. So.
The thing is, it's mostly PlayStation, right? And a part of that, I'm going to comment or reply to Fizchoso. He said, when did AAA studios start thinking empty worlds are super fun? One, you can blame Ubisoft for that, because that started with Assassin's Creed. The first few, not actually empty because the worlds weren't that big. But as the games kept going and they kept expanding, because actually the first empty world I can think of is Shadow of the Colossus, but that didn't have that much influence on this. But
that and MMOs.
MMOs,
don't you think World of Warcraft kind of had?
Yeah, but those games aren't that empty, right? Like, especially if you're playing Classic, you can run into anything anywhere in Classic.
Yeah,
but it's
open world.
It is. But we just these empty open worlds, and I'm getting to why worlds became empty. Assassin's Creed kept getting bigger, but they didn't like add more and more to the world. They just started spreading things further apart. And Assassin's Creed was still very, very profitable, especially with Black Flag, where they literally simulated the ocean to make it work better. And that's where the trend started. That's also like where we get these games where there's like these fast travel towers and stuff. It starts influencing other games from other genres. It's one of the reasons why like the Elder Scrolls games start getting more empty over time.
Skyrim,
like everything. starts getting empty. Nintendo did a good job of filling their game, but I would still argue that Breath of the Wild feels more empty than the tighter Zelda games that came before it, because it's, again, playing off of Assassin's Creed. It even literally has the towers from it. The popularity of Assassin's Creed has affected all of this, but then they start mixing in other things. The Last of Us was way too fucking popular for anyone's good. I'm not even saying the first one's that bad of a game. Like, I get why people enjoy it. I don't. But taking like the mix between that and The Last of Us, then you start to see why Sony starts pushing things in its direction, because it really appeals to the very casual, not so much gamer, movie-going audience that buys video games. And it's not even that big of an audience either, but it's almost like a guaranteed sale, right?
I will say Tears of the Kingdom did a much better job. I mean, they filled up that world with stuff everywhere. I mean, it's mostly little monster encampments, but, you know, there's variety and way more things to do everywhere.
Yeah. We also have Espa bringing up, can we go back to more games like DMC, Resident Evil, skating, etc.? Like, the thing is, most of these games are still around, right? Not just the franchise. Like, obviously, we do have Devil May Cry 5, Bayonetta 3, the RE remakes, as Espa was saying, are some of the more unique games that we have in the modern industry. But, like, we have people making games that are like the older versions of these games, too. They're all still around. It is just the AAA industry that's not really picking them up so much. I believe even the Tony Hawk 1+2 remake, while it's still under the AAA brand, they had to get like a smaller, like single A company to remake it to even get it out, right? Like taking all the old stuff. And it's just sad that we're having to see smaller companies do stuff that the AAA industry used to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, I none of this interests me at all.
Yeah.
Like, the only open world games that I'm interested in were, you know, used to be World of Warcraft, that was an MMO, and the 2 Zelda games.
Yeah.
But I see Devil May Cry or Assassin's Creed. I've never played those games. I've never played on playing.
But
Never.
the thing is, like, certain ones, the new Assassin's Creed looks bad. But one thing I like to do is, even if I don't care about a game, I do like to look at it for why the people who care about it. And I do like Devil May Cry. The last Devil May Cry was a good game, right? For people who like Devil May Cry, it's a good game, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think that the game industry is more diverse in genre and level, you know, from indie to double to A to AAA, whatever, because there are people like me who are like not interested in whatever's AAA for the most part.
Yeah, I think that's
the whole
thing.
I play games all the time.
Everybody can have their cake, right? There's a whole bunch of different bakeries out there. There's a variety of spice of life. It's just they've become McDonald's, right? Most of the AAA have just become fast food, right? Yeah. So it's like, we could go to a nice little bistro. Sometimes we might even have to pay extra money for it or whatever. Actually, a lot of times with indie, it's cheaper. But sometimes you have to, but when we say pay a little extra money, we have to pay a little extra time and effort to deal with something that might still be in progress, right? But hey, we're getting that at the AAA now too. We're not even actually getting they're not giving us any benefit not to go to indie titles anymore for some of these bigger things. But it's just become bland, and it's, you know what food you're getting when you go there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like the tendency, believe it or not, of remakes and remasters, especially when they do it right. But like, there's so much. You know, what's funny is, like, oftentimes remakes of movies are worse than the original. Not always, but yeah, I mean, there's such a rich history of games that can be remade, redone, reimagined in interesting ways.
Yeah.
That I don't think there's ever going to be that just domination by a couple of companies in such a way that the smaller companies are forced out in some way. I mean, there is a domination, obviously, by
Oh yeah.
huge companies, but there's still extremely lucrative opportunities for indies.
Well, I think it's almost like the opposite of movies, right? Because there's such a domination in movies because you have to go to the theater to watch it. And that's kind of like ending because of streaming. But the theater is still where most people make their money. And obviously the big companies get...
There's limited screens.
There's limited screens, and they get first dibs on them because they've got the money to have first dibs on them, right? While with video games, the smaller people actually force the bigger people to compete. Maybe not as much sometimes. Like Sony just isn't getting the picture, and their sales are being reflected of it of both their system and their games. But when we're looking at, like, say, Star Rail is a perfect thing that is actually forcing people to re-examine their ideas around turn-based games and what type of games they should be selling. And it's nice to see, which they're not indie. At this point, I would consider probably a AA studio. I would say MiHoYo is like at that level, the number of employees they have, the amount of revenue they make, the number of games they're juggling at the same time. I'd probably put them in AA. But still, they're not AAA, and they're forcing AAA studios to reevaluate some of the things they're doing. And you just don't see that in most of the other industries. Competition is healthy and alive in the video game industry. And we even see that with indies, right? Stardew Valley is one of the biggest ones that we're making, like the Story of Seasons crew actually reevaluate. Sure, that didn't affect the kind of remake-ish thing they did, but it definitely looks like it's affecting the new Harvest Moon with how good that looks, right?
Yeah. The other thing is how you do marketing in games. Like, you don't just have these approved reviewers or whatever. It's like if you can get a big Twitch streamer to play your freaking game, you can just go through the roof. You can totally bypass all of these websites, with professional reviewers and all that stuff.
Even better, to get those people, because I think you should partner if you can. Like, if you can even pay the streamer somewhat, come to some agreement, that would be cool, right? As part of your marketing budget. But if you go to Twitch and your game has some type of bonuses that can happen, you can get Twitch drops, which will then convince big streamers to play your game too, because then they'll want to have their audience watching to get the drops, and it's kind of like a feedback cycle. There are just so many ways you can do marketing with video games.
Yeah, and I get that it can be tough to sort of get at the top, the top of the screen on Steam, on the top of the list, or just show up for people on Steam because there's so much competition. But yeah, I mean, if you can, maybe I know it's few and far between, but I mean, Vampire Survivors getting played by Asmongold, it for like a $2 or $3 game just suddenly became a multi-million-dollar prospect, just from getting interest from streamers. So there's just a lot of ways that smaller games can get attention.
Oh yeah. It's easier now than ever. Still work though. Don't make people think you could just make something and slap it out there. It's like you still have to network, connect to people, get things going. It's a lot of personal investment in whatever you do.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but imagine just building a little game in the 90s. It's just impossible. If you don't have a publisher, you have to have a publisher or else you're screwed.
The best thing you do was PC market, which was not as big as, say, the console markets. But if you were on PC as a small game, you could probably write in, and 1 month, even if it's like 2 quarters after your game came out, you finally get a piece in PC Gamer, and somebody would read it.
I mean, think about it. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to go. You basically have to go the shareware route that Doom went. Just basically like, okay, we're going to give this away for free, get millions and millions of people hyped about it, and then and then charge for Doom 2.
yeah. Or you have to start trolling forums to get people to start talking about your game, like old bulletin board systems and stuff. It's just it's pain in the butt back then, right? And again, that's PC. You could print on a console, right? Like you could print on a cartridge. Plenty of people did it, but good luck marketing your game, because who are you going to get it on, right? Like, you could get a Nintendo Power if it was on Nintendo, but if you're going to do that, then you had to actually jump through Nintendo's approval process. You couldn't print it on one of those like manufactured cartridges that people were like cheating the system with. That a game like that was never going to get into Nintendo Power, and then you're still competing with space, and a lot of the smaller people were never getting in. So it's like good fucking luck.
Yeah, and the problem was it was hard to get people if you're going to make a unique kind of indie game, something that's not like almost anything else, you're going to have a hard time getting people to understand your game. And I'm specifically thinking about what's it called? Earthbound.
Oh yeah, Earthbound.
One of the almost universally thought of as one of the best RPGs of all time, and it was and made by Nintendo, and it was a complete flop.
Yeah.
People, they put it in, they featured it in Nintendo Power, and people were like, "What the fuck is this? This is what? You're fighting against speed limit signs, and I don't get it." But now you can show it on Twitch to millions of people potentially, and it's like, "Oh, I get this game now." I don't know if Vampire Survivors would have, done anything without Twitch.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was thinking of Faxanadu,
right?
Like, if I'm thinking about it, like, that's a game that I'm surprised ever got any sales. I had a copy. I know you've played it, and it's just like, once you're in it, it reminds you of Zelda 2, which I think even they came out like the same year, but at different ends of it. I think Faxanadu might have, I forget which one came out, but it was like there was like 6 months in between them. There's no way that the game could have been made fast enough that one of them was copying the other. They just kind of ended up doing the same thing. But like, without Zelda 2, I don't think anybody would understand Faxanadu, like, at all, even with the manual, or would buy it. I think people just bought it because it looked like the same type of a game that was already out. It probably got most of its sales, like, maybe months after Zelda 2 was out, and people were like, "Oh, this is a similar game. I'll pick this up."
Yeah. I don't know, but on the other hand, Faxanadu kind of sucked.
It does. It does.
Are there any other big headlines you want to touch on? Because we're over time.
Well, let's see. The only thing I wanted to bring up, we had a little bit more about Microsoft. I could just churn through the headlines real quick. One of them is
go ahead.
Following the deal, Bobby Kotick will be staying through the end of the year as per request by Phil Spencer. He was originally going to leave earlier, but he'll be there until the end, I guess, to get a new to get like a new executive. Probably the reason he was going to leave earlier is they probably thought the deal was going to end earlier. At this point, there's no reason not to stay till the end of the year. And the other one,
another reason to be optimistic, frankly.
It is another reason, but here's the reverse one. This always sets off red flags for me. Major union, the CWA, calls completion of the Xbox Activision merger a new day for workers. Anytime a union's happy, especially the one involved with Activision Blizzard, sets red flags off in my head.
On the other hand, union leaders are notoriously dumb.
Yes, that's true.
They don't always know what's good for them.
That is true.
This could, and it could end up being like, okay, it's good for the people who survive the impending layoffs, but there's probably going to be layoffs. I mean,
I think the big thing was it was back in June of last year where the CWA, which is the Communication Workers of America, and Microsoft reached a labor neutrality agreement where Microsoft would remain neutral if like the 10,000 plus employees at Activision Blizzard were to pursue unionization. So they have that option, which I think they didn't even have to say that because Microsoft has never really been a union buster within their own company. And if you become part of the company, they're probably going to be supportive of that. So yeah, I could see why they're saying this is a good thing for them. I just don't know if it's a good thing for the industry. Well, that'll be yet to see.
Well, this is another reason why I am concerned, or that I don't really like the whole AAA paradigm, because it's turned, game development used to be a professional vocation,
Yes.
along the lines of not quite maybe maybe you didn't get paid quite as much as this, but like being a lawyer or being in in a group of doctors or something, a dentist's office or something like that, where it's like you wouldn't really need to unionize because you're a professional, you get a salary and you get benefits because you're bringing so much talent and experience to your job. And they've turned it into these people are widgets in
Yeah, they've turned it into a factory. It's a game making mill.
It's a factory.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm like, well, I mean, if that's the way you're going to treat people, if that's the level of people you're going to hire, go ahead, form a union.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the
guess.
way they treat them, they actually do need unions. It's just the industry is not functioning properly that they even need unions in the first place.
Yeah. And that's a lot of the talk that I've seen around World of Warcraft and Diablo is that, like, no offense to the developers, but I feel like they're kind of incompetent.
Yeah.
No offense, but you're incompetent. And it's not their fault. It's that they don't, all the people with the most experience left, and they're left with people just simply with less experience and no one to train them and no one to, show them how it should be done, where they don't have to load everybody's entire inventory every time you go into a town and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, they're kind of going for lowest common denominator. Just hire these widgets to churn a product off of an assembly line.
And I think part of that too is it's not only the video game industry's problem. It's part them, part the universities, because we've been just spitting out more and more technical degrees because we're in a technological age, and there are all these people with these degrees that need something to do. Video games are the largest entertainment industry. It's like either you're going to be working on this, or you're going to be working in a similar mill, like a CGI mill for a movie company or something like that, because they need all the same stuff over there too. And because there are this many employees, it also gets to make the companies bigger because they have more employees they can hire, which means they can focus on games that are just churning things out like that too, where we need like 100 people working on textures at any point in time. It's a really bad feedback cycle.
Yeah. But if you are above that average that they seem to be aiming for, you should just do something on your own or form a smaller group and make a game where you actually competently put something together with outstanding. And there's very low, as much as it's way more expensive and difficult to make a game than it is, say, a comic book, it's still, the barrier to entry is still incredibly low.
And you're also probably going to make more money off of it than a comic book too.
Potentially, yeah. There's more, not necessarily, but there's definitely more opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has a higher ceiling. Like you could make $1 million with a comic book, but like you can make multi-million dollars with a video game.
Yeah. I mean, or it could be a flop, which is of course
either
going to be the majority. But
yeah.
But if you are like top of the line, like you said, a top of the line, just industry superstar making an indie comic, you make $1 million, or like in the case of Rippaverse, $6 million.
Yeah,
it's that's almost even like almost ridiculously.
It is.
I don't expect that. But EVS making $1 million on Cyberfrog is great. But the equivalent would be Stardew Valley making 10, 20, 30 million.
Yeah, the ceiling is just higher. And in some ways, and this is not to downplay Eric at all, because he's a very, very talented guy, you need less industry experience to hit that same one. Like, the only reason EVS gets as much of he gets is because of all of the years that he built up his reputation in the industry, right? While Stardew Valley, Eric doesn't really have any industry experience. He just made this game and it sells itself, right? Like, we look at the difference.
Comic. He had this comic. Yeah.
No, different Eric. Baronet.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Stardew.
Yeah.
We were comparing EVS to Stardew at Cyberfrog to Stardew, right?
Yeah.
Like, that game just sells itself.
For anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even say for Eric July, the only reason he even sells that stuff that high is because he has a reputation prior to that with different industries and stuff, right? And
music,
talking about comics even before making one. But yeah, and the music and everything else that he does, while like Concerned Ape, if we prefer that name's easier instead of juggling multiple Erics around, he doesn't have any background really, other than like a hobbyist who made a game, and the game is just so good that it sells itself.
Yeah, this is outstanding. It's the gold standard in that genre at this point, and it was from the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
But
so like
I have
the
one
ceiling's
last
just
thing.
higher.
Oh.
What do you got?
Yeah. Well, that you brought up was that they finally revealed the Animal Crossing Lego sets.
Oh yes, I do have that up too.
And although the screenshot you sent me, they are more along the lines of sort of the girl focused sets that they kind of did years ago. Maybe they still do, where it's kind of like the facade of a building.
Yeah.
And then in the front, there's more little bits and pieces, like a little.
The play
a
set
set
is
and-
more like a playhouse in a way. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a little disappointing because you and I think we're both hoping for full buildings.
Yeah, I wanted like an actual full little Nook's Cranny or something like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, a full or I think I had mentioned like the Roost.
Town
I would have loved to
Hall.
make
The
a Roost or
Yeah.
Town Hall, and it would be cool if you could open them up and see the inside because there's always so much detail in Legos.
Yeah.
Although I will say that there is the one set, the Tom Nook and Rosie set, is close to that. I might get that. It's interesting because there's a couple of buildings. There's a bit more detail on the inside of the buildings.
Yeah, that's
But,
probably that like 750 piece set or whatever they were talking about, or the larger one. It was 500. Yeah.
Yeah, that's this. Yeah, I was going to say the $75 one. The others are like 20. But yeah, the $20 sets, I'm just like, if I was a girl, I might be interested in that. And I get that Animal Crossing does appeal to girls more than boys for the most part. But I wish they were more.
I don't know, actually. I think Animal Crossing might be split down the middle.
I think it might be like 60-40 is what I've heard.
It's got to be
Which is
pretty
still-
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can tell from these Lego sets what they're aiming for.
Yeah.
And no offense, there's nothing wrong with that.
Now,
they're just not
even
aiming
though
for
their play set looks more like those girl line, everything fits like the normal Lego, I guess, play sets. Like the minifigs are normal minifigs. They're not like the weird girl set minifigs.
Yeah.
The only difference is they have the
And they
big
are-
Animal Crossing heads on them.
Yeah. And they are regular Legos. They're not.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I was like, wait, is that like a Duplo set with the big blocks?
Yeah.
But no, they're regular Legos. Very custom. But yeah, I do wish it was more like what was that set? The city. There was a Lego Cities set that had like a fire station and a police station.
Yeah, I think it's
and-
literally just called Cities is the name of the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was envisioning. Like you could do that, but with Animal Crossing buildings.
Yeah.
That I would have fun putting together and displaying. This is more like a play set that you would actually play a little role play with the characters and like have a tea party and stuff. I'm like,
And it's not like people don't do that with the other sets, but it's how you do it, right? Like girls like their little dramas, their little tea parties and stuff. Well, guys want the big city set because they want stuff being done in the city, right? So if you're role playing, it's like you've got the wrecking ball and you're like, okay, this building needs to come down, or oh no, there's a leak. There's a big like a pipe burst downtown, so we need the actual jackhammer, or we need to fix the pipe. Like the guys always want to get shit done in their play sets. That's what that role play is.
yeah.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Legos, the fun part for me is putting it together.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
I just like to display them. I don't play with them.
Well, also you're an
So
adult. Most of the people
Right.
that play with them like
But I
that are
never
like
did.
10 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's always been my the fun part for me about Legos.
I never did the role play, but when I built it, I would set everything up like something is going on there. It would just be like a static snapshot of a story. Yeah.
But because I've got that
Yep.
that question mark block there, and it's just been sitting there.
Well, I mean, it is time to end the show, but if people want something else that's Animal Crossing, they did put out, I put a picture of it in the Discord, a new line of Tomodachi dolls, which you could tell are also marketed to girls. They're pocket-sized collectibles, right? They could keep in like their purse or whatever like that. But despite being marketed to girls, they look exactly like the Animal Crossing characters and just make pretty good things that you could put on a shelf or something. Apollo is one of them. Everybody's favorite character. You also have, I see Blathers and what's his sister's name? Celeste, right? Those are in that set too. So there's some good choices. But that's all for the show because it's like 7:52, and I'm gonna have to let if I want the ending screen to play out at all, I'm gonna have to let this go past 8 o'clock. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoy the show, please share it out with other people who might like it. Grow the audience. We'll have a good time. And if you really enjoy the show, go one step beyond and consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. Really helps me out. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye-bye.